Let me ask you something. When was the last time something went wrong? Not catastrophically wrong, just wrong. Music, maybe your boss said something that stuck with you all day. Maybe a relationship hit a wall. Maybe you made a decision you regret, and you've been replaying it on a loop ever since, like a song you hate but can't get out of your head. Now, here's the real question. When that thing music went wrong, what did you do with it? Because most of us, and I mean most of us, do one of two things. We either explode outward, we vent, we blame, we spiral into every conversation we can find just to get someone to agree that yes, music, it was unfair. Yes, you didn't deserve it. Yes, the world is cruel.
Or
we implode. We go, music, quiet.
we carry it.
We let it sit in our chest like a stone, and we just walk around with the weight of it, pretending everything is fine. And neither of those things actually solves anything. Music, you know that. I know that. We all know
That.
but we keep doing it anyway, because nobody ever handed us a better
Way.
Well, about 2,000 years ago, somebody did, and his name was Marcus Aurelius. Music, and before him, Epictetus, and before him a man named Zeno Music, who stood in a painted porch in Athens and started teaching a philosophy that would eventually outlast music, every empire, every king, and every self-help trend that ever tried to replace it. They called it Stoicism.
And
No, it doesn't mean music what most people think it means. It doesn't mean being cold. It doesn't mean suppressing your emotions and walking through life like a statue. It means music, something far more powerful than that. It means learning, genuinely learning, how to stop being a passenger in your own life, music, and start being the driver. And it starts with 3 pillars. 3 ideas so simple they almost feel too simple. But don't let music that fool you, because simple and easy are 2 very different music
things.
The first pillar is this.
Control what?
Chapter 1. You can release music what you can't. Epictetus. And if you don't know who he was a former slave who became one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived, which already tells you music something about this philosophy. Epictetus said that everything in life falls into one of 2 categories. Music, things that are up to us, and things that are not up to us. Up to us, our thoughts, our choices. Music, our reactions, our effort, our values.
Not
Up to us, the weather, other people's opinions, traffic, the economy, whether your music flight gets delayed, whether someone likes you back, whether the deal music closes, whether the diagnosis comes back clean. Now, here's where people get this wrong. They hear release what you can't music, control, and they think it means give up, surrender, stop caring. That's not
it.
That's the opposite music of it. What it actually means is this.
Stop
Spending your energy on the outcome, music, and start spending it on the effort. Because the effort, that's yours. That belongs to you completely.
The
outcome never did. Music, it never
will.
You can do everything right and still lose. You can do everything wrong and somehow win. That's not unfair. That's just how reality works. Think about the last time you were anxious. Really anxious. I mean, the kind where your mind is running at 3 o'clock in the morning, music, and you can't shut it off. What were you anxious about? I'd be music willing to bet it was something you couldn't control.
It
was a reaction from someone else, or a result you were waiting on, or a future event you couldn't predict. You were lying awake spending mental energy on something that was never in your hands. To begin with, the Stoics would look at that and say, redirect. Ask yourself, what can music I do Right now? What action is available to me in this moment? And then do that.
Thing.
Music. And then let go of the rest. Not because the rest doesn't. Music matter, but because holding on to it costs you everything and gives you nothing. Chapter 2. The second pillar is harder and, honestly, it's the one most people don't want to hear. And it's this. Obstacles are the path. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in his music private journal, a journal, by the way, that was never meant to be published, which is
Part of why it hits so hard.
music. He wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the music way.
Read that.
Again slowly. What stands in the way? Music becomes the way. We are wired, biologically, music psychologically, culturally, to treat obstacles as stop
Signs.
something goes wrong, and our brain immediately categorizes music it as a problem to be avoided, escaped, or complained about. We treat friction like it's the enemy.
But here's what the
Stoics' music understood that most people spend their whole lives missing. The obstacle is not separate from your
journey.
it is music, your journey.
The
Moment something goes wrong is not the moment your story pauses. It's the moment your story, actually music, begins. Think about every person you've ever admired, every comeback story, every person who built something real, every leader, every artist, every athlete. Music who actually moved you.
was
Their story about how smoothly everything went.
no. It was about what?
They did music when things didn't go
Smoothly.
It was about the wall they hit. Music and what happened inside them when they hit it. The Stoics didn't just tolerate adversity. Music, they actively welcomed it. Not in a masochistic music way, not in a bring me pain way, but in a philosophical way. They understood that difficulty is where character is. Music built. It is quite literally impossible to develop patience without something music that tests your patience. It's impossible to develop courage without something that frightens you. The obstacle is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Music, and in many cases, it is your greatest one. So the next time something goes wrong, music and something will go wrong, I promise you that. Try asking a different
Question.
instead of why is this happening to me, ask what is music this preparing me for? That single shift in framing can change music everything. Chapter 3. The third pillar is perhaps the most quietly radical of all three, and it's
This.
you are not your emotions. You are the one who observes them. The Stoics' music made a distinction that modern psychology is only now starting to fully appreciate. They separated the impression, the initial emotional hit of something, from the judgment. What you decide that impression means, and music, what you do with it. Something happens. Your body reacts. Your heart rate changes. Music, your stomach tightens. Heat rises in your face. That's the impression. That's automatic. That's human. That is not in your control. And the Stoics' music never pretended it was. But then, and this is the gap that changes everything. There is a moment, a fraction of a second, sometimes a full music breath, sometimes longer if you practice, a moment between the impression and the response. And in music, that gap lives your entire freedom as a human being. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps and went music on to become one of the most important psychologists of the 20th century, said almost exactly this, that between stimulus and response there is a space. And in that music space is our power to choose. He didn't call himself a Stoic, but the Stoics' music would have recognized him immediately. Most of us never find that gap because we were never taught to look for it. We react. We snap. We say the thing we regret. We make the music decision from the worst version of ourselves because we didn't pause long enough to access the better
1.
The practice here is not suppression. It's observation.
It's
Learning to watch yourself the way you'd watch a character in a film with curiosity music, rather than judgment. When anger rises, you music, don't bury it. You notice.
it
You name it. You ask yourself, is this reaction useful right now?
is what
I'm about to do aligned with who I'm trying to be? That question alone, is this aligned with who I'm trying to be, is one of the most powerful things you can music carry with you through a
day.
So here's where we land. Control. Closing. Music, what you can. Release what you
Can't.
treat every obstacle as the path. Rather, music than a detour from it. And learn to live in the gap between what happens to you, music, and how you respond. These aren't complicated ideas, but they're not easy ones either.
They
Take practice. They take failure.
they
Take the willingness music to catch yourself slipping and start again without beating yourself up about it. The Stoics weren't perfect music.
people.
Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor who made plenty of mistakes. Epictetus was a slave who had every reason to be bitter and chose philosophy instead. They were human just like you. And that's music, exactly the point. This isn't a philosophy for the enlightened few. It's a philosophy for anyone who's tired of being pushed around by music, life, and ready to push back. Not with anger, but with something far music more powerful, with intention.